All right, welcome back to the Coach and the Kicker segment presented by Beef O'Brady's on Bush Boulevard and Himes Avenue. I'm playing hurt today, Coach. So I'm gonna need a good defensive game plan today to get me through our talk. My voice is in bad shape, but we'll make it through.
You sound good. Here we go.
All right, let's get right to it. We had some drama over the weekend in the state of Florida. We had a great game in Gainesville. Florida escapes 31-28 over USF. Florida State wins Friday night 35-31 in a really good game. You had Miami A&M. Miami goes down 17-9 in College Station, another really good game. And then we had UCF beats FAU 40-14. Much closer game than that at the half, and the game kind of got away from FAU in the second half. Let's first start. Let's start in Gainesville. Great game, great performance by the Bulls. Give them all the credits. They come up a little short. You know, we talked about special teams. The holder drops the ball in the last kick of the game, 50-yard field goal attempt. Just your general thoughts of the football game.
Well, last time we talked, I told you don't be surprised if South Florida doesn't make it really close, to halftime. And I thought the second half, Florida would pull away.
Yep.
But they didn't. And South Florida absolutely outplayed them.
They did.
They outcoached them. They had them more ready to play. Florida was not ready to play. They were outcoached and they were outplayed. I mean, the bottom line is, what bothered me a little bit was, they've got South Florida's got the transfer quarterback who showed a lot of confidence. And their team played with confidence. But to throw that pick after South Florida makes such a great interception,
right?
And you just have got to protect the football. You just can't make that mistake, especially against University of Florida at their place. But then they drive down, they get the ball again, drive down, and it's the bad snap, and I think they probably would have gone in there and scored and won the game. I thought they would at that point.
Right.
But what was remarkable to me was Florida has the ball first and goal on the 5, and they throw the fade, which was a really poorly thrown ball. I mean, the quarterback they have from Eastside Gainesville is he's a very good athlete, but I don't know how great of a quarterback he is right now yet.
Struggling to throw the ball. Struggling.
He's not right now. That doesn't mean he won't be.
Right.
It doesn't mean he can't be. Nobody really knows. And I'm sure the coaches at Florida don't know. And I'm sure that Richardson's he's got to figure it out. I know he's got great confidence in himself, but he can't make the mistakes he made. Not if they want to be it's the most important position on the field. And to throw that fade. Now, what bothered me a little bit was they said that he checked to it. Now, of course, I don't know. I'm not with the coaches at Florida, but that happened to me when I was head coach of South Florida. We were in a situation where our quarterback checked out on a very similar to that early in our program. And I said, we're not doing that anymore. I said, there's got to be a way that you get in that situation and you don't allow your quarterback to check. You're going to run the ball. You got down to running the ball. I don't think South Florida would have stopped them. And you do not give your quarterback the ability to do that. That's how I feel. Now, you might give him freedom, but all you have to do is have something on. You just got to tag it. Just a way to tell the quarterback, hey, in this situation, you don't have the freedom to check.
Right.
We're going to run these plays, and that's it. So, there's a lot of, there's going to be some real discussions, I'm sure.
Right.
Very good coaches on both sides. I thought I was really happy with the incredible coaching with South Florida. The offensive coordinator.
Great play calling. Very creative play calling.
And the defense, the defense coordinator did a really good job as well. I thought for South Florida, they just absolutely outcoached the coaches at Florida. They just really did, and had their team ready to play.
I agree. Anthony Richardson kind of reminds me of Trey Lance in the NFL, a guy with a ton of potential, but just not a good thrower. He has not played a lot of games. We talked about it. He's only played, started 3 or 4 games in his career, so he's still learning. He doesn't understand. the passing game is probably a little too complicated for him now. He's going to get better and better as he moves along. Got great talent, but you're right. You can't try to be. How do you obviously as a quarterback gets more experience, then you as the head coach gives him a little more freedom to check at the line of scrimmage. Is that correct?
Well, yeah. I mean, you've got to know your player, and I'm not with them, and he played such a good game in a Utah game, but I don't know. I mean, the jury's out on how great of a quarterback he's going to really be. You just don't know. Now, it doesn't mean he doesn't have great God-given talent. And I had a quarterback like that at South Florida one time, and we tried to limit him quite a bit and do what he can do. And
right,
coaches of Florida are very good. They're good coaches. They're gonna figure that one out, and they obviously play him because he's the best player they have. But the bottom line is this: also, you can't go to. I mean, it was a great job by South Florida,
right,
but you didn't win.
right.
We went up. I remember one year was after the year we were. One year we ranked number 2 in the country. The next year we ranked 10th in the country. We went up and played Joe Paterno's team at Penn State. They had 108,000 people there, and it came down to an onside kick. And I felt like we outplayed them in a lot of ways, and I felt like we got the onside kick. It's a long story on that one, but we came so close to beating Joe Paterno on a very good Penn State team, but we didn't win.
Right.
And as we built our program, I said the bottom line is, you can Oklahoma. We went to Oklahoma and we outplayed them in a lot of the game, and we didn't win. There were other games like that. TCU, we hadn't lost a game in 5 years, and TCU came in and beat us 13-10, but we didn't win. And right. You got to win those games. That was so great about us going up to beat Florida State or some of those others. We've lost those games.
Right.
And I understand what Jeff's team played extremely well, played a great game. It's a loss.
Right.
I'm saying, quarterback, needs to protect the football, the snap. I thought the kicker, boy, what a good kicker they have. He's outstanding, I think. And, it's just sad that those things happened when it could have been such a big win, and we could have done this, could have done that. The bottom line is you got to win it, you lose. And Florida won the game. South Florida did not. And I thought South Florida played them, but they didn't win. And you got to win those games.
I mean, and they had it all set up for him in the last drive. If the guy doesn't snap the ball, is that pressure of the moment? Who knows? You don't know. You had the bad snap, and then you had the bad snap on the field goal attempt, and then the holder didn't catch the ball well either. But those are the moments where, like you said, the good teams become great when they make those plays in those moments. That's what elevates you to a good program, to a great program.
Yeah, now they go on the road to play Louisville, and right. It's a totally different thing. Just because they played Florida so close doesn't mean they're going to go beat Louisville.
Right.
They may not. The bottom line is execution, doing all the right things. And I know that's what Coach Scott, I'm sure, is telling their team. It's very tough to go win at Louisville. But the bottom line is just keep getting better.
That's right.
Protect the football. The game plan, again, I thought was outstanding.
I'm
by
with
the coaches. They had them ready to play. And the leadership is going to be really important as they go into Louisville. And, it's a tough place to go. It's they've got, I've been a part of those kind of schedules. You just go in and play one game at a time and go after it. And hopefully they'll do enough good things to come out on top, but you don't know, every game is different.
Speaking of Louisville, Florida State goes to Louisville Friday night, wins a really dramatic game. Jordan Travis, the quarterback, gets hurt in the second quarter. The backup comes in, plays well. Johnny Wilson, the receiver from the transfer for Florida State, comes in and has a monster game, has a great final touchdown catch with about 6 minutes to go. And then the defense, again, the Florida State defense wins the game at the end with the interception. Your thoughts Friday night? Malik Cunningham, ill-advised throw there at the end. Big win for Mike Norvell.
Well, it's huge. Really is really big, and I think says a lot about what Florida State is. They're really building something. You don't know. You got to keep going through the year, but to go into Louisville and win that game, I said last week, that's going to be a huge game for both teams.
Yep.
Because Louisville had just gone to Central Florida and beaten them.
Yep.
It was very difficult, and now they have them at home. Florida State, they had things going. Florida State comes in. Louisville had some momentum, and to win that game, you got to give Florida State a lot of credit for winning that game. That's not easy to do. I had said last week, Cunningham is, again, inconsistent at quarterback.
Yep.
He's a tremendous athlete. At times, he's unstoppable. He does some things that are remarkable. But what impressed me was he made some mistakes, like you had said at the end. But how about the backup quarterback at Florida State?
Yes.
Was very impressed with him. I thought he came in. They've got two really good quarterbacks there, and that's important. And what an outstanding job he did, and what a great job for Florida State. Great job, really is.
No doubt. And again, again, back to we talk about winning close games. I mean, again, the last 2 years, Florida State lost all these games. They're figuring out ways to win these tight ones late. The LSU, obviously the LSU game, the way they won that on special teams at the end. They won a game on defense. You mentioned it. The backup quarterback. That's got to give the coaching staff and the team massive confidence. We don't know what the status of Jordan Travis is going to be, but knowing you got a second guy that can come in the game and win games for you.
No, and I'm telling you,
play well.
Travis is a good player. We all know that. He's really good, but man, I was impressed with this other quarterback. You talk about a battle in there now. They've got a good situation to get Jordan back healthy, and again, most important position on your team. But I was very impressed with the quarterback for Florida State. I thought he did an outstanding job.
Tate Rodemaker. Yeah. Right. And like I said, we talked about last week, how many reps do you give a guy like the backup quarterback in practice? And we talked about that. And again, much different than in the NFL. You actually give your backup some reps in practice throughout the week, correct?
You do. And, we talked about 40% last time. I said whatever they did at Florida State was obviously the right thing to do because they had him ready. And he had himself ready. Yep. And it doesn't contribute to him. I mean, that's a very tough situation to come into, a very, very tight game, 21-21, or it's a little bit probably not where when he came in. And for him to lead Florida State to win at Louisville and to aid and to use his legs and run when he did, I was very impressed with that.
Very good. Yeah, you listen to the Coach and the Kicker segment with head coach Jim Leavitt, former USF head football coach. We're breaking down all the games from around the country in the state of Florida. Before we get to Miami and FAU, talk about Herm Edwards. Herm Edwards gets let go at Arizona State on Sunday. You probably have had a relationship with him at being in Tampa when he was with the Buccaneers, Coach Dungy. Just talk about that. They lose to Eastern Michigan. We talked about it last week with Scott Frost. You're losing to teams you can't lose to at home. There's some allegations of some stuff going on in the program. Arizona State cuts the ties with Herm Edwards. Just your general thoughts about it. I know you know Herm a little bit. Talk about just Herm in general.
Well, I like Herm, and him and his wife. I coached Herm's son at South Florida, and I've always liked Herm. And when I was at Oregon, we beat Arizona State out there, and played pretty well in the game there. And Herm and I talked after the game. I just like him. The problem is before the season even started, people were wondering. There's so much smoke about the recruiting violations and what was on with, and really it's centered on Herm's head football coach. So it's all going to go to him. But the defensive coordinator and some of the other people they let go to try to, I think, kind of scoot away from that.
Right.
But there was probably too many things that were happening. And I think there's going to be a lot more happening at Arizona State in the next number of weeks it's all going to come out probably. And there's probably not a lot of good things. There's probably some things that they did that were wrong, but I don't know because I'm not the NCAA. I'm not there. I don't.
Right.
I do like Herm, and you just don't want to lose to Eastern Michigan on top of all the other program is Colorado. You didn't bring up Colorado, but here that's a program that the last year I was there, we won 10 games, and no job is easy, but Colorado can win. There no questions. One of the most beautiful places in America. McCartney won. We won the 1 year. Play Washington championship game, and they're just getting destroyed, and they're not even competitive right now. And it will be interesting to see what happens in that scenario. So a lot of different things happening. Here 2 or 3 games and already people getting fired, and the landscape of football is just so different than when I played, when I coached.
And
It's just a different world.
And we all thought that Nebraska might play better against Oklahoma with the new coach and cleaning that out, and they got destroyed by Oklahoma. I mean, that's going to be an ugly, just the way it looks. That's probably going to be, again, I don't want to make predictions, but that may be an ugly, that might be a 4-8 kind of year at Nebraska just because that looks ugly there.
Well, you just wonder their talent level, obviously. And I don't know how much leadership they really have. And tribute to Brent Venables. Brent played for me at Kansas State and was my GM for 3 years. And I'm really excited about him being the head coach at Oklahoma. And he's one of the best coaches out there. Has got great passion for the game, love for his players, and he had ready because that could have been a tough situation. You just don't know. There's variables that you just don't know going into Lincoln, and new coach and just got fired. And is a team going to rally behind Joseph and all those type of things? You just don't know. And give a lot of credit to Brent and Oklahoma Sooners.
And they have the UCF transfer at quarterback, Gabriel, the kid from UCF's the quarterback at Oklahoma now. So again, more Florida connections. And the point you made last week about an interim coach, after the game Saturday, Nebraska let the defensive coordinator go. So you made the comment about, hey, if we got to make changes, we got to make changes on the staff, and they've done that even with the interim coach in there.
All right. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens there. There's going to be a lot of it's going to be a tough year for Nebraska. We all know that this year. So,
all right, you got it. All right, let's get to College Station Saturday night. Miami goes down 17-9. To me, it was a game of Miami self-destructing. I mean, they moved the ball up and down the field all night long. Missed field goal, blocked field goal. The punt returner drops a punt, which leads to an A&M touchdown. The inability in the red zone to drop several drop passes. I mean, wide open drop passes by the receivers. What'd you see in the game?
Well, I thought Miami would win that game. Miami's talent level is very high. I was surprised they didn't play better. I just think that there's a number of things that happened in that game that were, that just shouldn't have happened. And it's we'll see how Miami is as the year goes. They haven't played anybody really. Texas A&M was the first team they played. Southern Miss, they might be a decent team, but Miami should roll through the first two, and then Miami's got Middle Tennessee this week, so you really don't know what it's all about until they start getting into the ACC and start playing some people. But I thought they played better than they did. I really did, but they didn't. So it's
special teams. I mean, just special team breakdowns. I mean,
a number of things. Red zone, like you said, there were some things that happened in that game that. That just, obviously they'll get in there. They'll say they got to coach better. They got to play better. Everybody's in it together. So, they got where they got, they just need to kind of come back to them because that's the first team they played. That really is a decent team. So that game will show them a lot more who they are. And next week, Middle Tennessee, they should just roll Middle Tennessee and then you start the ACC. So.
Defensively, I thought that, defense better than anybody. I thought they played pretty well defensively, and A&M's got a good defense.
Right.
What'd you see? Did you see anything schematically that makes you nervous?
No, I thought their overall, the defense, there's a few things I didn't like personally, but I thought overall they played really well. Guys played hard. I just think offensively they could have done some more things. They got a very good quarterback.
They do.
Let them play. And, I don't know. It's I think they've got a very good quarterback. So I expect Miami to do well this year. I'll be surprised if they didn't.
Got the potential to be a really good Florida State Miami game in another month or so whenever they play. So, both teams progressing. That could be a really good game here and decide a lot of things in the ACC. All right, let's go. UCF FAU, a game you really thought FAU would play well. They were in the game at halftime, 16-14. They go down. They get outscored 24-0 second half. The Plumlee kid from UCF had a tremendous game, 340 yards passing, 120 yards rushing, really dominated the game in the second half.
Well, they couldn't stop the quarterback running. To me, that, you got to make him one-dimensional, make him try to beat you throwing the ball. To me, I didn't think Florida Atlantic did a very good job defensively on stopping that quarterback, and he got away from him, and that's what happened. I was surprised. The game halftime was more about what I thought it would be. I thought FAU came out, played, they scored right away in the opening drive. I thought they did some good things. I thought FAU would have a chance to beat Central Florida, quite honestly.
Right.
And at their place. And, they had momentum off the last win. You got to give again Central Florida some credit for going in there. And it's not like going to the swamp or going to some other places, but because FAU just doesn't have, that home field advantage isn't a great home field advantage, quite honestly. Coach there 1 year, and it's a beautiful place, and they've got nice facilities, but you're not going to get the support out of the crowd that other places get. But their second half, they just didn't play well. Defensively, they got to play better than that, and offensively, same thing. Got to protect football. You got to do some things there, but.
UCF gained 650 yards of offense. That's just a ton, and then killed them in time of possession, 37-22.
Well, Malzahn does a good job. They do a good job offensively. Their schemes are tough. I was a defense coordinator at SMU last year. We played UCF and beat them, and it was hard. It was hard for me to stop all the things that they were doing. Our guys played pretty well in that game, and got the win, but it's a challenge. You stop that quarterback running and he can throw it, and it's not easy. But
Malzahn wants to run the ball with the quarterback. That's where his bread and butter is, when he has a quarterback that he really can lean on to run the ball. And this Plumlee kid, he's a better runner than he is a thrower, I think. But that's the Oedipus of their offense, is to be able to quarterback run the ball as part of that zone read scheme.
Yeah, and he does a good job. They're well coached. They know what they're doing, and and I know Orlando's a good football coach, defense coordinator at FAU. He's really good things in a lot of different places. And last Saturday though, that wasn't good. It wasn't. You can't give up 650 yards certainly, and you can't give up 40 points. It's just too many yards, and he knows that. They know that. They've got good coaches. They just got to move past that one. But now FAU goes to Purdue,
right? Who lost a heartbreaker to Syracuse over the weekend basically in the last 15, 20 seconds. I watched the end of that game. That was a back and forth. That fourth quarter was a wild fourth quarter against Syracuse. Both teams were, they scored like 42 points in the fourth quarter between them. So that was a tremendous finish on Syracuse. And you're right, Purdue's going to be a tough out for FAU.
Well, they went on the road and lost to Ohio. Now you got to go on the road to Purdue, and that's not going to be easy. And you got to, you got to be able to play well on the road if you're going to have a road game, And FAU's got talent. There's no question they got talent. They've got good people, and nothing would surprise me in this world. Northwestern gets beat out of. I don't know who beat Northwestern. I forgot who.
Southern Illinois. Southern Illinois
in their opening game lost to Incarnate Word, like 60-20 something.
Jeez.
And they beat Northwestern, and then you look at Appalachian State with Troy, the last, the Hail Mary.
I want to ask you about that as a defensive coordinator. I know it's hard. You can't practice those kind of plays, but what are the big concepts you talk to your defense about when it's a Hail Mary kind of play? Talk to the audience about what you tell your DBs of how to defend it. Seriously, how to defend it.
Well, usually if it, in my mindset, if it's on the other side of the 50, I go with a 3-man rush. I drop everybody, and certainly you work on that play. You work on that play at least twice a week, and you get it out there and you do it. And sometimes you'll do it against your offense, and only one group is going to go up for the ball, one group's not. But, if they're getting close to that 50-yard line, I'm bringing heat.
Yeah, make them throw the ball.
I'm going to make sure that quarterback doesn't have time to throw it.
Right.
He's got to throw it early. And last year, I'll never forget, I was with, 2 years ago, I was at FAU, and the defense coordinator at Marshall, we talked about running this one defense I call shovel, which is zero coverage and bringing the heat. And I forget who we were playing, but the ball's at the 50, and I ran it. I brought everybody, and we got an interception. The quarterback had no time to throw it, but I remember Coach Taggart said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I don't like those Hail Mary throws that make me too nervous. I've seen too many people beat by them. So, if it's close to the 50-yard line, don't bring the 3-man rush. But if it's the other side of the 50, which is what I think it was, and you do that 3-man rush, man, you've got to have a jumper. You got to have somebody for the tip ball, and you got to box out. They didn't box out.
And the worst part is he didn't catch the ball in the end zone. He caught the ball at the 3 and then ran in.
I know, and that's why I'm saying you might even box out, and those things might happen. So bring 5, bring 6, make that quarterback throw the ball earlier than he wants to.
Right.
But it's, I mean, good coaches have gone through there. Good coaches have been beat by, it's not like those guys are bad coaches.
And the coolest part is App State had game day on campus that day. So it was the first time they'd ever had game day. And then you win a game like that in a miracle fashion. What a weekend in Boone.
And look at Georgia Southern getting beat.
Yeah, I know.
After going and beat Nebraska.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. This whole it makes that's why everybody, college football is so exciting. And everybody
that's why you guys got a lot of gray hair. A lot of gray hair. That's why.
Fortunately, I haven't been in that situation too many times. Now at SMU last year, we beat La Tech on the last play at the 50, just like that. Okay. Exact same. Go back and Google it up. Our game against La Tech, and it was Skip Holt, who took my place. And Skip's a good coach, but we threw the ball at the last play, and same thing. Tipped the ball out, ran into the end zone, and won the game.
Do you guys would you normally call a timeout before that play on defense just to make sure everybody understands what you want to do?
If you have it, yeah. Okay. Certainly you want to talk about it again, but the main thing is I need to know where's that ball. If it's, I'm telling you, inside the 50, I'm going to bring people.
Is that a situation too? Because you see a lot of this in the NFL where they'll put a Gronkowski or a big guy, 6'6" guy on your defense who might be a tight end or an offensive player. Did you ever use offensive players in that defense to put a big, tall wide receiver in the game?
I did back in the day. I had a guy named Anthony Henry who I played back to. He played both ways, though. But it happened to us when we were playing New Orleans Saints when I was at San Francisco. You didn't know whether they're going to go for a field goal because they're at the 50.
Right.
Kickers can go, or whether they're going to go to the end zone. And you had 2 different calls you made. Well, we were fortunate. They threw it up in the end zone. The big tight end from Miami named Jimmy. I forgot his name, but
Jimmy Graham
caught it and out elbowed our DB. I mean, the guy's so big. Fortunately, they called offensive pass interference. We didn't lose the game, but and Vic Fangio is our D coordinator. Vic Fangio is one of the best out there.
Yeah,
and he gets caught on different calls, and he gave a call down to me, and I'm sending it out to Pat Willis, and then we knew right away that we thought they might go out of bounds, and we had one call, and they went ahead and went to the end zone. And I mean, there are good coaches out there. They get this stuff.
They get burned,
and they work at it.
All right, a couple more questions. I'll get you out of here. A couple recruiting questions. Head coach, I've always been curious of this. Where do programs get their list of players from? Obviously, you don't know all the players when they're sophomores. Where do you guys get a recruiting list from? Do you guys pay a service to provide you information? Where does a college coach get their recruiting lists and all these things from that you hear about 5 stars and all these other kids?
Well, the first thing is, wherever you're located, you're going to probably recruit the state you're in, regardless. You're Iowa, Montana, or Florida. And then you got to go from there. You always go to the adjoining states, the one neighboring states, and then you go to pockets where you feel like you can get a pipeline going. Scouting services, you're going to pay 2 or 3 different scouting services to give you information. And as the years went, we end up paying more and more people that you trust. They gave you good information, but that's just giving you a lead. You certainly have geographical areas for your coaches, and each coach is responsible for a geographical area for a certain number of high schools, and they're responsible for making those phone calls and letters going out to those high school coaches. And some high school coaches do better than others on getting you information. And that's really important. What's great about living in a state like Florida or Texas or California is you don't have to go that far. You don't have to get on airplanes. You can just drive.
Right.
And then you develop relationships. You cultivate areas. Like if you have Miami area, or if you have the Tampa area, you cultivate. You get to know all the coaches in that area. So, like if I'm recruiting somebody from Tampa Bay Tech, I might ask somebody at Plant or somebody at Wharton. You get verification on how good you think that player is.
Right.
you're always gathering information. You're always working it. It's year-round work. You don't. There's just like real estate. You don't get it. You don't get a day off. You're always going, and that's the difference between college and pros. Pros, you don't recruit. You go draft somebody and they're yours. In college, you have got to recruit, and you better have coaches that are embrace it and understand how important it is. If you don't have players,
forget
those
about it.
areas, it'd be a lot better if you had some guys out there that have some length and ball skills and do the things you want them to do, or you're not going to have a chance. So recruiting is obviously the lifeblood of any program.
Is recruiting is I know obviously it's an everyday part of the job. Is it do you allot time during the day for your coaches to do nothing but recruit? Obviously the kids are in school, the high school kids. Do you say from 3 to 5 every day we're going to recruit, or from 5 to 7 we're going to do all that work, recruiting work, or how do you handle that with your assistant coaches?
Well, each coach has got responsibilities, and they're going to recruit every day if something's going to come up. But normally I went on Tuesday and Wednesday night from 7 to 9. Our coaches, not our coordinators, but our coaches were going to recruit, get on the phone.
Right.
The coordinators were working on the game plans and those type of things. And the defense offense coordinator, I didn't have them recruit unless they really wanted to. They because head coaches couldn't go on the road. There's a time period where the head coach could go on the road, but when they pull the head coaches off because of cheating, you got to depend a lot more on your defense and offense coordinators to go out and see a lot more people in the spring and to evaluate, to try to have one common evaluator.
Right.
Evaluation is so critical. But Tuesday and Wednesday night had to make phone calls on 7 to 9. The rest of the time, guys just handled the recruiting as they needed to. You come in there Sunday night, you're working on the next team. You got a lot of things to do to put those scouting reports together. And it's really hard to do any recruiting, but if you've got to make a certain call and you got to have a certain timeline when you got to talk to somebody, you do it. You just do. You break them. And a lot of times your defense and offense staff together, a lot of times you want to make that call anyway and have everybody talk to them. And then a lot of times you might want your staff all together, especially you do so much more recruiting when you get to Thursday and Friday. Because your game plan's in, your GA are probably working on the next team that you're going to face on breaking those films down. And, but that's how I did it.
As far as nowadays, with so many of these teams having analysts and all that kind of stuff, is that something that analysts would handle a lot of, is making those calls, things like that? Obviously you can do much more now, social media, texting, Twitter, all the videos, Instagram. Was that a heavy part of how you guys recruited kids nowadays as well?
Well, the analysts are not legally supposed to make any calls.
Okay.
The GAs can. GAs were heavily into recruiting. And if there's anybody out there listening and they want to be a GA and you want to make a move and get into college coaching or anything else, you better first be a great recruiter more than a coach.
Okay.
That's how it is right today, which is really disappointing. We had a lot of coaches come at different programs I've been in, and they always said, hey, they want to be known as a coach, not just recruiter. And I used to be amazed. And you better bust your ass and get in there and spend some time working the hours, because there's no reason you can't be a great coach and a recruiter. But you're going to have to spend a lot more time than some of these coaches did at looking at all those things. But a lot of coaches make moves today in the college world on recruiting. And, being able to land players and get players, and, hopefully they don't cheat to do it, because there's a lot of cheating going on out there. There's no question. But now with NIL, it seems like it's all wide open anyway. So.
All right, Coach. Well, great job, Coach. We're going to talk to you next week as well. Hopefully my voice will be in a little bit better shape for the week. I need a good throat lodging. I know. Talk to the audience. I know you told me a good story about you lost your voice at a big moment. Tell the audience about when you lost your voice, and how do you seriously, how do you handle it as far as doing what you got to do to coach the team?
Well, I don't want to tell the story because we're number 2 in the nation. We're playing Rutgers. And I lost my voice so much that, honest to God, in the second half, I was yelling, but nothing was coming out. And I couldn't instruct sometimes. And that was first, because usually I just did it verbally, especially people that were close to the sideline. And my voice, I lost it that night, and it never came back. So I've always got this raspy voice from that night on. So it serves me right that that happened. I don't know. After the years when I when I became just more of a defense coordinator, not a head coach, I just learned to coach without yelling as much. You just can't. Certainly, and you lose your voice like that. I don't have the answer. I can't help it.
A lot of hand signals, a lot of signals.
All
Coach, have a great week. We'll talk next week, okay?
right, Jason. All right,
Appreciate
we'll see you.
it. Yep. We'll be right back on the Powers on Sports podcast, simulcast with Florida Football Insiders.